Cambodia, where tennis is slowly growing in popularity again after the sport was all but wiped out during the Pol Pot era. Our own Candy Reid went to investigate.
Angkor Wat in Cambodia, an unusual but very spectacular backdrop for a tennis match, which just a few years ago would have been unthinkable.
Historically, this is where King Jayavarman VII used to come and see all the games and the wrestling and the elephant pulling and so on and so forth. And to be here today, it's quite symbolic for the Tennis Federation of Cambodia.
The match was to launch a new grassroots tennis program and announce the signing of Cambodia's new tennis ambassador, the former doubles world #1 Leander Paes of India.
It's always been a dream of mine to come out to Angkor Wat and visit, but to get to play tennis here is phenomenal.
It's a fitting setting for a sport which thrived in the country until 1975, when Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge came to power.
When the Khmer Rouge took over Phnom Penh in Cambodia, anybody that was elite or academic or considered the upper class was exterminated. It was basically ethnic cleansing. Tennis is considered an elitist activity, a hobby, and so anyone that had anything to do with tennis was killed.
Many atrocities occurred here during the Khmer Rouge when they took over. It is now today the American Embassy. Prior to that, it was Cercle Sportif, our tennis club. I played with my father. This is where he taught me. I was, I believe, 9 or 10 years old.
In the early 1970s, Tep Ritivits and his family went into exile. His father, Tep Kunar, had been the national captain at a time when Cambodia dominated tennis in the region. Riti wouldn't return to his homeland for another 20 years.
I returned here in Cambodia for the first time in 1992, and I said, well, I remember where the Cercle Sportif was, and I said, let's go and check it out. And I was a tennis player already. To my surprise, I found 3 ex-players. They were still alive.
Nobody knows exactly how many tennis players were killed, but one of the 3 survivors was his father's old teammate, Yi Sarun. Many of his and Riti's family were last seen here at Cho Yung Ek, better known as the Killing Fields.
He had to hide from his identity because he was a tennis player, but he was working in the army as well. So he destroyed, obviously, in 1975 all his ID cards, all his trophies, everything else. It's interesting because they said, you look like a sports guy. You know, were you a sportsman? And he said, no, I'm not. If you're a sportsman, you can go help the country, show the sports side of the country. He said, no, I'm really nobody. Hey, Leander, I'd like to meet our oldest champ in Cambodian tennis, Mr. Yi Sarun.
Today, Yi Sarun still earns a living coaching tennis, but his opponents are now from a new generation, a younger group, which are only playing the game thanks to the efforts of one man.
Well, basically, Pol Pot, as everybody knows, wanted to start year 0. We started year 0 back in the 1993-94, as far as tennis was concerned. So we basically rebuilt it from scratch. I basically went to get a lot of the young talents and found it in the ball boys because there were, at the time, a lot of expat. They would spar or knock with the Yi Saruns and the others, and I personally took all the ball boys and started giving them a tennis lesson.
With the help of the ITF, Riti embarked on a program to introduce mini-tennis into schools and eventually establish a national training centre.
It was a painful process. It was difficult. We had no equipment. We had no money to do this. But we had one thing. We had this determination from my part and also from the kids. They wanted a better place in the sun.
At the beginning, it was a little bit difficult with the parents. They didn't have an education on what we were trying to do, and now the parents understand that the Tennis Federation, we're trying to have a connection with the kids and trying to teach them something good that it could be very good for them for the whole life.
In 1997, Cambodia entered its first international competition, the Southeast Asian Games in Jakarta. They failed to win a single game. 10 years later, at the same tournament, it was a different story.
That day, everything changed. Everything changed for Cambodian tennis. Everything changed for our players, and mostly everything changed for me.
Against all odds, Cambodia's Tan Naisan won a bronze medal. 2 years later, he would repeat that feat.
It was worth like gold or platinum for us. I had no more voice. Everybody was cheering. Most of the people were crying. Our player was delirious.
2009, he ended up winning a match that nobody would have believed. It was almost destiny for Cambodia to be able to come back and repeat and get another bronze medal, and the emotion just overwhelms you.
In 2012, Cambodia will re-enter the Davis Cup, and these players will finally follow in the footsteps of the likes of Tep Kuna and Yi Sarun. It marks an amazing turnaround for the country and the game, and the final realisation of one man's dream.
Fascinating story. That was from this month's Open Court show. You can find